Welcome to LiberalViewer Sunday Live Clip Roundup. Sorry for the delay, some technical difficulties. I tried the new beta YouTube live event software and it never gave me a chance to start the stream. So I had to opt out of that and go to the old version, which is what I'm doing now. I hope all of you can find the video here and join me. I have a few good clips. For those of you who missed LiberalViewer Sunday Clip Roundup last week, I want to thank you for joining me this week. And this is a show where I'll be talking to my viewers live, then playing live some of my favorite clips from today's Sunday news shows, the news analysis shows, and the clips that caught my eye because, I often see clips I'd like to share with my viewers, but I don't end up finding the time or the material to make one of my edited and produced videos. So I'm hoping that this show is going to be a way that I can still share those clips. And after I show the clips, I'll make my commentary on the clips. And then when I'm done with all the clips, I will look through the comment section and hopefully find you and get a live discussion going. Now, this week's episode is going to be all Boston Marathon bombing clips. Obviously, that's been wall-to-wall coverage on the news. Also, I have my earbuds here today. So unlike last weekend, last LiberalViewer Sunday Live Clip Roundup, I shouldn't have the audio problems, which I have to apologize for that. That was basically pilot error, I guess they call it, because I was trying to mute my microphone so I could listen to the clips. And anyway, let me get to the clips here. I have three good clips. The first one is Deval Patrick on Face the Nation. The reason I want to play this clip is because, the video, the produced and edited video I just uploaded this morning is about whether the Boston bombing suspect should get his Miranda rights. And it's a 9-minute video. I discuss it in depth, and one of the important factual questions for whether he needs to be given his Miranda rights is whether he's being questioned about an imminent danger to the public. They can delay giving him his Miranda warnings and informing him of what his rights are if they want to question him about an imminent danger. So with that in mind, let's see what Deval Patrick said this morning about whether there's an imminent danger.
Governor, are you satisfied that this threat has passed, that it's over?
I am. I think, there's still an ongoing investigation. There are lots of questions about how and why and so forth, and many, many leads still to be tracked down. But the immediate threat, I think all of law enforcement feels is over based on the information we have, and that is a good thing. And you can feel the relief at home here.
I heard a lot of echo in the audio for that. I don't know if that was understandable to the people watching, but it sounded, what I think it is? I think I may have another window open, and so I was giving you, I'm sorry about that. I had double audio going. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play that clip again because it was impossible to understand. Let me try that one more time for all of you. This is Deval Patrick on whether there's an imminent threat, and I apologize for that.
Governor, are you satisfied that this threat has passed, that it's over?
I am. I think, there's still an ongoing investigation. There are lots of questions about how and why and so forth, and many, many leads still to be tracked down. But the immediate threat, I think all of law enforcement feels is over based on the information we have, and that is a good thing. And you can feel the relief at home here.
So without the echo there, you can pretty clearly hear that the governor of Massachusetts is saying that there is no imminent threat. So if there's no imminent threat, then there's no public safety exception to Miranda warnings, which means that if they want to question the Boston bombing suspect and use anything he says or the results of anything he says later in court against him, they need to give him his Miranda warnings because there's no longer any imminent threat, according to the governor of Massachusetts. So that's why I wanted to play that clip. That's my commentary on the clip, and I'm glad I got rid of the echo there for all of you. I'm going to take your comments on that clip and all the other clips at the end. I have 2 more clips to play because we just had Governor Deval Patrick saying that there is no more threat from the Boston bombing suspects. I also wanted to play a clip from former White House counter-terrorism advisor Richard Clarke, who I actually saw speak live at an ACLU event once when he was talking about how the Bush administration was approaching terrorism completely in the wrong way. And I actually kind of have respect for him. And I wanted, because I just showed Deval Patrick saying that there was no threat from these bombers, I wanted to show a clip from Richard Clarke talking about a different kind of threat that there might be.
But the issue here is, now that people have seen what 2 men can do with easily obtained materials, close down a city, get the President of the United States to show up, other people around the country who have been radicalized have watched this, and they're going to wonder, is there a way now that I can do this?
And I think that that is the threat. It doesn't have anything to do with these 2 bombers or some... I mean, they may end up being connected to other people. I mean, who knows where the facts are going to turn out in this story. But I think that Richard Clarke is right that that this bombing is going to not only... It's not only the copycat effect, but it's because of the wall-to-wall media coverage. I remember someone asked me... I think it was on LiberalViewer last Wednesday, if there was any sort of negative effect from this wall-to-wall coverage on all the cable news networks, and even, the broadcast networks spent a lot of their time with the breaking news stories. And I think that the negative effect from it is that it encourages what Richard Clarke was talking about there, that the more we give coverage, the more we shut things down, the more effect that we show from these kinds of acts, the more we encourage other people to try to get those effects themselves. And anyway, I wanted to... You can give me your comments on that clip, on the Deval Patrick clip, or this third clip I'm about to play is from a Republican, Mike Rogers, who is also a former FBI agent. A lot of people, were criticizing the FBI because a couple years back they actually talked to the older brother who was killed by police, who was the Boston bombing suspect, Tamerlan Tsarnaev, I believe his name was. Because a foreign intelligence agency, who some people are saying was the Russian intelligence services, told the U.S. government that he was radical and we should look into it. And they interviewed him and they looked into it, and they decided there wasn't enough there to go any further. And the story is they actually tried to contact the Russian intelligence or whichever intelligence service to get more information, and never heard back from them. And so eventually they closed the case. And so a lot of people are criticizing what the FBI did. I actually, at least based on the information so far, don't think it's such a negative thing. But I was intrigued to see former FBI agent and Republican Congressman Mike Rogers make this comment on Meet the Press this morning.
Chairman Rogers, you've been an FBI agent. You're now chair of the Intelligence Committee. Was something missed here?
Well, we looked at and talked about what exactly the FBI did, and it's important to note that that case was closed prior to his travel.
Yep.
So I don't think they missed anything. If you looked at their digital footprint, and they did, if they went through all their database checks, and they did, and you did the thorough interviews that you would expect them to do in a case like this, they did. And at some point, they asked, is there more clarifying information, and never received that clarifying information. At some point, they have nothing. And so you can't ask them to do something with nothing. I think they prudently said, well, there's nothing to see here at this point. Now remember, he then left and traveled and came back. Now that's a different place. They had no further information indicating that until, of course, after the event itself.
And it's important to point out,
we'll go through and review all that. That's important to do. But I think they were very prudent and very thorough by my review of what happened prior to his travel.
So what I find so amazing about that clip from Republican Mike Rogers about how prudent and thorough the FBI was, even though I kind of agree what he was saying, at least based on the facts that have come out so far, is that same Republican congressman was all over the Obama administration and the State Department for missing signs about the Benghazi attack. I think back in December he was on Face the Nation saying how it was gross negligence in Benghazi. But when it comes to the FBI, where he's a former agent and has, very strong contacts and is almost an advocate for the agency in the Congress, all of a sudden, they were prudent and responsible and did everything they could. And I actually kind of agree with him this time, but I just think it's kind of hypocritical how he didn't have that rational calm approach when it came to Benghazi, and it was time for Republicans to score political points. So that's my commentary on the third clip, and I see I do have a bunch of viewers who made the switch over at the last minute to the new video here, so I'm going to try to see if I can get some comments. Hold on a second. Let me make sure I don't get that feedback problem again. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to switch over. I need to open up another window here to see your comments. Let me refresh that and see if anyone... I prefer to see comments on the 3 clips I showed. I hope you were here to see them all. Let me start up. See, I have some off-topic. There was no echo, it's just all sound. Okay, so I guess I was the only one who heard echo on that first clip. And so I guess I just played that clip twice for no reason. First, on that first clip about the Miranda rights, Mac on the web says, "Isn't this a moot point considering the suspect is in critical condition right now and unable to speak?" Well, obviously, he can't be questioned right now. That's what all the reports say, and so I assume that's probably true. But it isn't really a moot point, given that they're probably, if he does recover enough to be questioned, they're probably going to try to invoke this public safety exception. And at least according to the governor of Massachusetts, there is no imminent threat. So that is definitely, if the Obama administration and the FBI, when he recovers enough, or if he recovers enough, if they try to question him, and I were his criminal defense attorney, I would play that clip from Deval Patrick at the suppression hearing and say, the governor of Massachusetts said that that there was no immediate threat, so how can you be invoking the public safety exception? Of course, that only applies, the Miranda warnings only apply if you want to use something he says against him in court later, and then the criminal defense attorney suppresses those motions on the basis of lack of reading of Miranda rights, and any evidence that might come from what he says could also be suppressed on that basis. But as I said, I think in LiberalViewer Wednesday, and maybe didn't make clear enough in the video I uploaded this morning about the Miranda rights question, there's no constitutional requirement that you read anyone their Miranda rights. It's only if you don't read them and then you want to use what they say against them and you're interrogating them in custody that there's a constitutional problem. So let me see. Never Start 1012 says, the reaction by the governor to this bombing was insane. It was a gross misallocation of resources. The questioning without Miranda was only acceptable if it is to find threats, not for court. And that second part I just discussed. I don't know. Shutting down the city of Boston, millions of people, it is a huge undertaking to do that. And the threat, to really decide that, you'd really have to know what they knew at the time. These guys did have more bombs and may have been looking for soft targets. At least that's what I've been hearing from various sources, if they're reliable. So maybe what they were trying to do is stop crowds from gathering so that these guys couldn't find another place to put bombs, and they were trying to do it in the area where they were, which, I could see an argument could be made for that. The whole thing, it's pretty unprecedented. So from a legal point of view, the police do have a right to not have to get a warrant to search houses and search neighborhoods if there are exigent circumstances and they have to do something immediately to stop some threat. And so that's why I was saying, if they thought that they were going to go throw bombs into crowds, they could tell people to stay in their houses. But that all depends on what information they had, which we don't really completely know. So I guess those facts will come out. Let me keep going up the comments here. Gabor Cosper asks, isn't this exception about events when a policeman has to question someone in haste on the field so that he won't get grilled for getting the warning in a case like that? The 1984 Quarles case was in the field. They were in a house with a suspect, and they saw he had a holster that was empty, and they asked him, where's the gun? And they told him, the suspect told the cops where the gun was, and the Supreme Court said they could still use that statement because they were only asking him because of public safety, so the statements didn't get suppressed. And if you go and you watch my video that I uploaded this morning about whether the Boston bombing suspect should get Miranda rights, you'll see at one point in the video I refer to the judge's order in the case of Umar Farouk Abdul-Muttalib. See, I can even say it live. Who was the 2009 Christmas Day bomber, underwear bomber, who tried to bring down that flight going to Detroit. And they went and they questioned him in the hospital for about an hour about threats. And there's this 12-page order where the judge explains in detail why that fit within the public safety exception. And the problem is the Obama administration has really expanded that way beyond what they did in the case of Abu Muttalib, and now they're saying it can go for 48 hours. And also, if you look at the FBI memo, it says you can question them just to get good intelligence. But if you read it closely, it sounds like they may be saying do that even though we know we're not going to be able to use those statements in court because we're violating Miranda warnings, which you can do. And police have been doing that for a long time. In murder cases, sometimes they'll try to get confessions without Miranda because even though the prosecution can't introduce those statements in their case in chief because they'll get suppressed, if the defendant tries to testify, then the prosecution can introduce unmirandized statements in rebuttal. That there's cases on that. So sometimes they actually do that on purpose to try to stop the defendant from testifying. So anyway, it's a long, complicated thing. So let me keep scrolling up here. I want to go to about 30 minutes, and I know I started late because I had those technical difficulties. Let me see. Smack on the Web says, and this must be to the Richard Clarke clip, oh good grief, we're going to start losing our water over the possibility of copycats. Well, I'm not going to lose water. I see RDCIZN said nobody is losing no water here, and yeah, I don't think that Richard Clarke's losing water. I think it's just a good observation that the more attention and more effect we give to these, what looks like two guys using household items to make a kind of low-tech bomb that had, really horrible effects. But the more attention we give it, I think the more we encourage people to try to get that attention for whatever cause, they're disgruntled or crazy about. So let me scroll up here. Let's see. Eric Ling says, I'm wondering what he could possibly even say that they would need in a trial against him. Well, I mean, that's a good point, and I think I made that point on Twitter. I actually had a little discussion with Lee Doran, who has his How the World Works channel here on YouTube, about Miranda right when U.S. Attorney Carmen Ortiz was making, that statement that that they weren't going to Mirandize him because of the public safety exception. And I think one of the things I pointed out is that I think there's probably a lot of evidence, at least from what we hear. They basically have him on videotape planning the bomb, so, what statements do they need? So that's a very good point from Eric Ling, that, that's one of the reasons that Miranda warnings aren't even really that important, assuming they have the evidence they say they have, which, as a former criminal defense attorney, I do still want to see the evidence. I know maybe that makes me kind of one of the few people in the country, but not that I'm sympathizing with the person who committed these terrible acts, but I just want to see the evidence. Call me crazy. So let me see if the comments run out. I am gonna probably end a little bit early, but Never Restart 1012 says, if it was a gunman and not a bombing, the reaction would be entirely different. Well, I've seen people commenting about how the gun incidents and the bombing incidents are different, but this was it did kill hundreds of injure a lot of people at a big cultural event for Boston. It was meant to have cultural, political impact more than these crazy shooters that we have seen in the past couple years. But I understand that guns kill a lot more people than these this Boston Marathon bombing. A lot more people have died from gun violence probably every day since the bombing than during the bombing, but that doesn't mean that it's not something worth coverage. I just think the coverage might be a little bit too extensive. So I'm gonna do one more refresh here. I don't really see any more on-topic comments. Oh wait, here's one from NO8549. This morning I heard John Ashcroft said suspect could be designated as enemy combatant, maybe related to public safety exception debate. Yeah, NO, I did see a link about how John Ashcroft said that on NPR. And one thing I wanted to point out, and I some people probably heard this, but American citizens cannot be tried in military commissions. There was an amendment, I can't remember, was it 2010, 2012? I can't remember the exact year, but the Military Commissions Act has been amended so that American citizens cannot be tried by military commission. And, of course, Johar Tsarnaev is an American citizen since September 11th, 2012, so legally he can't be tried in a military commission. I don't know why people want to call him an enemy combatant. I don't know what the value of that is other than undermining our important legal institutions, which, having spent the time I spent about 5 years as a public defender, which is someone who defends people accused of crimes who can't afford a lawyer. I did it in the state of Missouri, in various places in the state of Missouri for a couple years, and then here in California for a couple years, and I had a couple of other jobs that all added up to about 5 years. So my experience was not that we need to lessen the rights of people accused of crimes, but that the government actually has a lot of power and can put a lot of pressure on people, and I don't think we have to worry in this case with all the evidence that the government says they have, and all the ways that the police and law enforcement officials already have to get people to talk. They're very good at it with and without, even with the Miranda warnings. They often get people to talk. I recommend to people that they watch the Central Park 5 documentary that I mentioned in the video I uploaded today, and I have a link in the video description of there that you can watch the entire documentary online, and it talks about how these kids in 1989, who everyone thought were guilty of this horrific rape, were actually coached into making these false confessions by the police and got railroaded and spent, like 7 years in juvenile detention, I think most of them. And it was only after DNA and came out that they went back, and there are all these discrepancies that everyone just glossed over at the time. And that definitely happens. That's why our founding fathers wrote the Bill of Rights. That's why James Madison, who proposed the Bill of Rights, said that the right to a jury trial was just as important as the natural rights, like the right to life, liberty, and property. It's not a natural right because it only exists within a society, but it's really important. You need to be able to not be forced to incriminate yourself, to have the assistance of counsel to confront the evidence against you. And the system generally works, and it's certainly not, at least our current system is not weighted against defendants. It's not something where we have to weaken the protections for defendants and for those accused of crimes. So I don't know why we would have to take this guy where there's supposedly overwhelming evidence and make him an example of undermining our most basic values rather than showing how they actually work, which is what I think we should do. So thank you for that question, N08, or that comment, N08549. And I think I'm getting close to the end of my LiberalViewer Sunday live clip roundup here. I hope you enjoyed the clips and the commentary, and I appreciated some good questions this week. I'll be back on Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific for my LiberalViewer Wednesday Live, which is just a Q&A session with the viewers. And then next Sunday, I'll be back with LiberalViewer Sunday Live Clip Roundup at 6:30 p.m. Pacific. So thank you very much for joining me, and I hope the news isn't as horrific next week as it was this week. And have a good rest of your Sunday, or for my viewers in Europe, perhaps your early Monday.